there's masks in the supermarket anymore or anywhere.
Oh, really? We were there this morning and everybody was in masks and it's no longer required. I think a lot of people will. We'll see how long they hang on to it. But the numbers
checking in, no masks, nothing here, but the numbers are high and going up.
Oh golly. Well, the medical officer here, the woman here in British Columbia has been really good. She said, you know, we're going to gradually take them down now. But I want you to know that if things go up again, you know, if it gets worse again, the restrictions will be back on. So behave yourself while you can, I think.
Are you here, Ajahn?
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดี
สวั
ค่ะ
สดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์สวัสดีครับ
ดีค่ะท่านอาจารย์
Morning, Alberto, Tom, Zita.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Shall we start?
Let's start. Tom, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Because I thought we could bring up the question you brought up in the Vietnamese discussion about the skin and the body sense, because I'd be interested to hear Ajahn response, because I'm not sure that mine was the best one. Would you like to mention it again for Ajahn? Because I think people here would appreciate it.
Yes. Okay, so my reflection comes from, we read about the 32 marks of great men, and it is said that the Buddha has 32 features of his body, such as the complexion, the color of the skin, and the tongue, many different features, and they are said to be the result of karma. Like his voice, for example, also is mentioned as being result of karma. But when we study the Abhidhamma, we know that the rupa that are kamacha-rupa are the eye sense, ear sense, tongue sense, and so on, and masculinity and femininity. So how to understand this being mentioned as kamacha-rupa, as result of karma?
And what about the 8 indivisible rupas, including color?
Yes, so because they arise together.
The visible object.
Yes.
Of different combination of the tattoo. That's right. Even the skin are different from each moment. We can say that.
So do you mean that the rupas that arise in the same group condition each others as well? So like the visible object that arise in the same group, then the body sense is also conditioned or is affected by the body sense.
So how many conditions for the 8 rupas to arise?
There can be there are 4 causes for them to arise.
So it can be conditioned by Dhamma, right? Together with another.
Okay. So if they arise in the same group, then the kamacha-rupa, they are said to be like the visible object in the same group is said to be conditioned by the karma as well.
The 8 indivisible rupas arising together, conditioned by the same condition, without the primary rupas, can they be the other four rupa? Impossible. So can karma condition only the four rupas, the derived rupa to arise only without the Mahabhuta rupa?
Okay, so that means the Mahabhuta rupa also is conditioned by karma.
And when it arises, is conditioned by citta, different group, right?
Yes.
There must be the four primary rupas, which can be conditioned by karma or citta or tu and ahara, and the other rupa which arises with it is conditioned by karma too, when that Mahabhuta rupa is conditioned by karma.
Yes.
Can I just interpose there with a question? So does that mean when we say Dhamma as one condition for rupas, is that just referring to Kamacha rupas, or are these rupas conditioned by karma but not Kamacha rupa?
Can the karma condition the Mahabhuta rupa to rise? And can the Mahabhuta rupa be conditioned by citta right now, the sound or the nose or whatever? So we just talk about the other rupas which arise with Mahabhuta rupa. Which one is conditioned by what? According to the Mahabhuta rupa, which is conditioned by karma or citta or utu or ahara. Indivisible rupa, 8 rupas, arising together, falling away together by the same conditions.
Right. But when we say they're conditioned by karma, is that a reference to the Kamacha rupas, or is this? Yes. But the Kamacha rupas are only the ones that are listed, specified, such as the eye sense, ear sense, etc.
Everyone, we all know about the 4 primary rupas that each has to arise by condition. They cannot be separated by karma. And what are that with it when it arises must be the 4 rupas. The derived rupa conditioned by utu, by the 4 primary rupas. They cannot be separated at all. So in Kalapa, we talk about that whole Kalapa.
Right.
Conditioned by what? And the 4 primary rupas are known already that they have to be there. So we do not mind at all, just that which is different by nose or tongue or whatever as conditioned by karma, and the other group do not arise by karma and so on. It can be by utu or citta or ahara. That's why the 4 primary rupas have all 4 conditioned, but different moment, different one. Conditioned by karma, conditioned by citta, conditioned by utu, conditioned by ahara. And the primary derived rupa arise with it together. When the Mahabhuta rupa is conditioned by citta, what about the other 4? It's conditioned by citta too. That one which is conditioned by karma cannot arise with the Mahabhuta rupa, which is conditioned by citta.
So this is clear that each group of rupas has to be conditioned by one of the 4 conditions, and all the rupas in the kalapa have to be conditioned by the same cause, karma, citta, nutriment, or temperature, and that the 4 primaries condition the derived rupas that arise together with it. So when, as earlier, we were mentioning about the skin and how it's different from each moment, and we know, like Tom mentioned, that in the case of the Buddha, the skin is fine and bright and so on. So here we're talking about different groups of rupas that are conditioned by karma, such as body sense, and also different groups of rupas that are conditioned by chitta and temperature and nutriment as well. And because skin is a concept, an idea, so there are the different groups of rupas which, because of sanya, there comes to be the idea of the skin, and this skin is different from that skin. So when it mentions that the skin and these marks are conditioned by karma, well, actually, it's just some groups of rupas that are conditioned by karma, but other groups are conditioned in other ways, but they rise and fall away so rapidly. So there comes to be the idea of the skin, the body sense, the soles of the feet, and so on. Is that all one can say?
This is a subtlety of all dhammas. For example, right now, there is seeing, and what is seeing? Are there no Mahapuddha-rupa? But Mahapuddha-rupa cannot be seen, but they are there. Whatever is seen as a doll, a cat, there must be Mahapuddha-rupa. But no one think about it, how many Mahapuddha-rupa, kalapa, with akasa in between, before it can be seen as a doll, a dog. That's why there is only one reality appearing in one doorway only. Even there is hardness and softness, but sound is heard, not the form at all. It cannot be object through the no sense. But at moment of touching, even there is a visible object and smell together with hardness, but it cannot appear together with hardness at all. Just one doorway at a time. And even rupa is so very subtle, because there must be the akasa in between each kalapa. Otherwise, it cannot be separated or broken up at all.
In so many suttas, well, like when we read about the 32 lakkhana, or other suttas, when we read about those born rich and poor and healthy and weak and so on as a result of karma, but we have to understand what the different realities are, what the different groups of rupas are conditioned by, and how, as Dhamma said at the beginning, the only groups of rupa that are conditioned by karma are the 5 pasada rupas, the 2 bhava rupas, the jivitindriya, and the hadiyawatu. So these are the only rupas that are conditioned by karma. So when we read about the skin and the souls, we have to understand that these are actually conventional terms referring to so many different kinds of rupas conditioned by different ways, not just by karma, but there have to be other conditions as well, like chitta and otu and ahara too, or leading to the idea of, as you say, doll or person, or soles of the feet, or skin or texture. Without understanding about dhammas, it's always the idea of a whole or something, or the Buddha's body, or the long fingers, but not understanding about just the different realities arising and falling away. And it's a good point about the akasa. Without the space in between the groups, there would be no separation. Nothing could be known at all about different rupas.
And we can understand how much ignorance about everything. Like when there is moment of tasting, the taste is different from moment to moment, one at a time. How can the taste be different without the combination of the Mahapuddha-rupa? So very different tastes of different fruits and everything, smell, even color, only because of the difference of the combination of the Mahapuddha-rupa, conditioned by karma. Otherwise, how can the taste is different because there must be the 4 Mahabhuta-rupas, but the combination of the 4 Mahabhuta-rupa conditioned by different condition, like by karma. No one can make it different, the combination, but karma condition that. That's why what is seen is different because of the different combination of composition of Mahabhuta-rupa. Otherwise, they must be all the same if Mahabhuta-rupas are not different when they arise together. A little more heat or softness and so on. So much to be different at different moment, one moment at a time.
Much variety just because of the different Mahabhuta-rupas and the different combinations, the different varieties and the different extremes of temperature and hardness and so on.
That's why understanding the teachings of the Buddha is to understand now what is there. Otherwise, nothing to be the proof of the teachings. Now they're seeing. At moment of seeing, there cannot be other thing with it. It is a moment of experiencing only that which can be seen. But those other rupa arising together with it cannot be known because it cannot impinge on the eyes. But they are there, no matter sound or sight or whatever. There must be the 4 primary rupas, Mahabhuta-rupa. Conditioned by different condition. So the karma condition moment of that which is seen because of different combination of Mahabhuta-rupa. Just add a little more, a grain of salt. The taste is different. But what are there? Not just the taste, there must be Mahabhuta-rupa too.
I think the sutta, like the Lakkhana Sutta, which talks about the marks of the body of the Buddha, it's a typical example of a sutta that is totally misunderstood, like other suttas referring to results of karma, completely misunderstood if there's no understanding at all of dharmas, of abhidharma, because each mark is taken for something or a whole, like the skin and the body hairs and the fingers and so on. So everything is misunderstood if there is no understanding of the dharmas appearing now and the different rupas arising together in different kalapas.
And not only Buddha, what about each one now? The cat, the dog, the fish, different ones. Do you remember?
Each one different.
Yeah.
The skin of the elephant's body and the skin of the human body and the frog's body. So we have to understand in truth there's no skin and no frog and no elephant and no human, but different groups of rupas conditioned in different ways, leading to the idea, the appearance of this skin or that skin.
And the absolute truth is that what is there now is only one in samsara. Never be the same at all. From moment to moment, each one. That's why it is sunyata and anatta, the absolute truth, is far more than anyone can imagine. Otherwise, that everyone realizes the truth, become enlightened so very quickly. But actually, even just one reality which is now appearing, if there's no understanding, ignorance there, attachment is there, more and more, on and on. That's why hearing the truth of the word of the teaching is to understand what is there now, so close. Otherwise, it's useless because what is taken so much is what is there now as I, my skin, my body, and so on. But actually, that's only one when it appears and then gone, never to return at all in a samsara. Otherwise, there cannot be seeing the Ariya Satya, the truth of it, it's not there anymore. And the experience of the truth so closer and closer and closer to the moment when the nimitta appears as arising and falling away directly. What about the clinging to that as something impossible? Because what appears is that which arises and falls away. No one and nothing there at all. And it has to be just right now, because what is not arising and falling, not the other thing which do not appear. Because how can there be the understanding of that which does not appear? But what about the understanding of that which is now appearing? This is what Buddha said about come closer to understand what is there now, because it's just right now. And this is the point, to be very firm confidence of the truth, to implant the understanding of everything as nothing, because it's only there. But Sanya marks and remembers on and on and on as something permanent. But what about now? Is it permanent? Is it not like death, just gone, never to arise again? That's why each word has to be develop the understanding of the truth little by little until it's so firm, daily life. Otherwise, it's not the studying of Dhamma, just thinking about Buddha, his appearing so on.
I think, as you often remind us, it's only when there's the understanding of dhammas as dhammas, when there's more understanding of how each one is anatta, not a thing, not a skin, not a body, not anyone, that confidence develops. Without the understanding of dhammas, then there will never be confidence in what is true and right. So they have to develop together.
This is the only way to let go, the clinging, just want secretly, even trying, even intention or attention to that with attachment underlying. It's not known. That's why the understanding can develop to the moment of naturally what is there is there. And then right understanding which has been developed works its way to understand little by little directly of that which is now appearing, as it has been studied carefully and understood little by little to the moment of beginning to understand it. It's not far away at all. What Buddha taught, the Ariya Satya, is now and here. Not thinking about very excited experience so on. What is that object of clinging and ignorance? Trying to understand. It's not there anymore to be understood. But what about now, that which is appearing? If it's not understood now, how can it be the understanding of whatever appears later through the eyes, ears, tongue, and so on in life? And life is just that which appears and then gone unknowingly. In samsara, non-stop, when there's no understanding, to end up the conditions for whatever arising now, stage by stage. That's right, just hearing, considering, understanding. No one understands, even hearing. All are conditioned reality in life, daily life, natural life. So listen and understand, not just try to understand that which is not there. But what about now? Different colors, different combination of the Mahabuddha Rupa.
And also, I think that sometimes when we read, like in this sutta and the many others, that these parts of the body and so on are conditioned by karma, and we know it's referring to different rupas, it doesn't mean that karma is the only condition, but it's mentioned because it's the main condition. I remember another sutta which was similar, but it's not just karma that brings its results, but other causes too, like the citta, utu, and nutriment as well.
And why we talk just about the rupa, which is conditioned by karma, because the four mahapurupas can be conditioned by other conditions like citta and utu, but the I base cannot be conditioned by citta, utu, and ahara. It has to be conditioned only by karma. That's why it's so quite different for each one, brown or black, or Buddha's eyes and Sariputta's eyes. Everything is conditioned. So very, very subtle.
The sada rupa is only conditioned by karma, and also the jivitindriya rupa and the hadayawatu. So it depends on the context what is being referred to. Like if it's just referring to the eye sense or the color, then it's conditioned by karma. But if it's referring to the skin, then the body sense, the color, the eye sense conditioned by karma. But there are also different groups of rupas that are being conditioned by chitta and temperature as well. So each one has to be understood.
And imagine how subtle the development of right understanding has to be the way it is. Right now, little by little, what is there as seen by the moment of seeing as different things, it has to be the way it is. But by understanding little by little, it's just that which is seen. It will not attend to so much interest in the shape and form as before. Even at that moment, any moment in life can be object of understanding. Otherwise, the wrong understanding cannot be eradicated because it's there at any moment of experiencing. Sanya is I, Vedana and feeling and so on. That's why it works its way, little by little. How long will it take to understand what is there now? By conditions, because of it has been developed to understand, not to be excited, but even it can be excited moment by conditions. Everything which appears is known and can be known, understood the way it is as just nothing. Because no matter what is so different from now, quite excited, it's conditioned and then gone. Otherwise, there cannot be letting go the idea of wrong understanding of what is there which is different from usual. But no matter what it is, it's only a moment of experiencing. And the moment of experiencing, the experiencing is no one at all. It's conditioned just to see that, to hear that, to think that, to understand that. See, everything in life which is hidden has to be opened up to understand the truth of it until it's so keen enough to understand whatever is there unexpectedly. That's why even the moment of realizing the truth, no matter what stage, has to be so very unexpected because of no wish and no desire to have such and such as the object. Otherwise, lopa is there, ignorance is there, because it has been accumulated to be conditioned to arise again and again and again, on and on and on. Only at moment of understanding, to be truthful to the truth, Satya Parami, the truth is now appearing. So what can be understood must be that which appears only. That's why Buddha said, don't mind about the past and the future, because the past gone and the future hasn't come yet. Who can expect? So the popping up become to be clearer, little bit clearer and clearer, unexpected all the time. That is the meaning of anatta, no one at all, because it's by condition arising and falling away. And the moment of beginning to let go is to understand the truth. It's there everywhere, every moment, and there's no understanding. That's why understanding the truth little by little. That it's the moment of understand what is there. Not try to do something to experience something different. But now what is there has to be understood just one at a time. Otherwise, it cannot let go the idea of thing or self at all. It's not at all when it's touched, hard, when it's seen. It's just like anything that can be seen. Even it's different ones, but it's the same that can be seen. So the truth is always there all the time, anytime, anything. That's why there can be the understanding of the accumulation of ignorance so much that it cannot understand what is there. But right understanding is different. But it is the beginning of the development of understanding from hearing and considering. What is the meaning of Dhamma is so very subtle. It's not subtle if there's no understanding of it, but it becomes so subtle, little by little. And that is the way to let go, desire and everything, to experience or to have it, to show up. Impossible. It has to be panya only, which is strong enough to understand what is there. At moment of the attachment, or moment of anger, or moment of happiness, or feeling, or pain, whatever. That's why it takes quite long time, as ignorance has been accumulated long time. And this is the only way. Who knows this way knows that there cannot be other way. And how is it so very subtle? Because it is the fourth Ariya Satya. Not other way at all. When it's time to realize the truth, it has to be developed by this way only. Just listen and have confidence of the truth. It can be realized because it's there. So how much understanding has been developed when it's still something all the time.
Tam, was there anything more relating to your question, or does that cover everything, do you think?
Yes, I think that's pretty clear. Just I think I would like to clarify one point, like when the I sense arises, for example, it arises with a group of kalapa. So that one is said to be conditioned by the same karma as well.
The whole group, the whole kalapa,
group, right?
all the rupas in that kalapa, I sense, and all the other rupas in that kalapa must be conditioned by the same karma to
so
arise together.
That's the main thing. Okay, thank you very much. I think that was very helpful. Thank you, Achan and Sarah and Jonathan.
So I have a question. Good morning, everybody. Achan. A question about the Galapa. The Galapas are separated by akasa. But what about the rupas in a galapa? Are they all just, it's so tiny, I know, but there's no separation of those rupas within a galapa, is there? I mean, they're obviously, they're experienced differently because taste is not the same as the visible object, but is there any separation of those rupas in a galapa?
So what does it mean? The indivisible rupa
Indivisible.
in a kalapa. There must be 8 rupas, not 5 or 6 or 1 or 2. There must be the 4 Mahabhuta rupas as the primary rupas. And when they have the 4 primary rupas, it conditions the other rupa to arise with it. No one can do that. But whenever there are the 4 Mahabhuta rupas, there must be that which is there to be seen, to be heard. No matter what rupa is, there must be Mahabhuta rupa in that kalapa. That's why it said, how many rupas in this kalapa? How many rupas in this rupa? Like for the eyes base of pasata rupa, chakku pasata rupa. How many rupas? See, there must be 8 for sure. And what is conditioned by karma? There must be the chivitindriya rupa. Make it to be living or rupa. Not the nama, but the rupa. It's different. When it's someone, the eyes, when it's not dead person, dead eye yet. It has to be chivitindriya rupa to show up the difference between the eye of the dead person and the eye of the living person. And then the rupa, one in Akalapa, whether it is Jakupasata, Sotapasata, Sivapasata, and so on.
Sorry, Azita, what did you have in mind when you asked about separation?
Well, I was thinking of we talk about, I thought of it when we talked about akasa in between galapas. And then I thought about within one galapa, how are they separated? But obviously they're not. So I think that's what's meant by the comment you made a moment ago, Achan, is it becomes more subtle as understanding grows. And I think this is probably a very good example of that. The more understanding there is, the more subtle the realities seem to become. So thank you for straightening my view on that.
And this is the only way to let go ignorance and clinging, because not understanding the truth, what is there is the object of clinging instantly. But when there is a little more understanding, it let go what is there as thing and people, person, because what is seen, it's just only what it sees. Once in samsara, and the next moment of seeing even that person again, not that person, only different reality, but it conditioned by the same condition, so it looks the same, and sanya marks and remember, and that's on. This is the whole world, the universal, and so on, all Dhammas. Anatta.
Tanajanka, I have a question. I look at upadana. We have the 4 upadanas. Ditupadanam, Kamapupadanam, Silabatupadanam, and Atawada Upadanam. I would like you to help me with the difference between Ditupadanam and Atawadupadanam.
Because you see that even we don't have other wrong belief or ditthi, but there is still sakkaya ditthi, which is attavādupadana.
Okay,
That
okay.
right?
Yeah, that makes sense, Tanajan. Yeah, thanks. That's very helpful. Thank you very much.
And the example is that what is seen, upadana.
And can you clarify that, Tanajan, when you say that which is seen? Yes, there was bound to be upadana at some level. How did that relate to your answer? I'm not quite clear on that.
So what is seen?
The visual object, Tanajanka.
But when it is not a visual object, it is something, right? Which is seen.
Shinkup.
Before there can be the precise and clear understanding of what is meant by visible object, how long it will take to be truthful? Because only that appears to prove that the truth is the moment when it's there appearing to panya, which is strong enough to let go the idea of something from that which is seen. So natural. That's why all panya that we have developed, everyone listen and panya develops little by little. And how much understanding is there? It's what is there now at any time. Because usually no condition to think, even to think about the truth of no one, of rupa, at moment of touching, at moment of tasting. It's the taste, the food, not the reality. Until it's there then by condition, appearing just one at a time. Not clear yet, but clear enough to be known, as it's not just hearing about the taste, because the taste is there appearing. But the clinging, the upadana of five khandhas are there. But that's why only that which is there can be known little by little to let go. What are there which are object of clinging, upadana, of sanya, of vedana? When they do not appear, they must be clinging to sanya, vedana, and so on, as I. But what is there can be known before, because sanya is not the object yet. Feeling is not the object yet. So without the understanding of that which is there, developing little by little, it cannot lead to the understanding of the feeling at moment of understanding or studying or beginning to understand the object as no one which experience or who understand. That's why all dhammas are so tactile, because it's there from life to life, from moment to moment, right now, from birth up to now, unknown. And it begins to be studied to understand what is there, which hasn't been object of understanding before at all. To understand that what we are talking about is now so close, everything, touching, seeing, thinking, it's there. So it is the beginning to understand. We are studying to understand what is there, which has been taken for I or thing all the time. Getting closer and closer, open as you go.
Sundar, could you explain those four upadana, that four upadana that you mentioned?
Well, I don't know if I can explain them. I think Ajahn could do a really wonderful job on that, but I can tell you what they are, and you can probably have a sense of what they're relating to. Dittupadanam, so the clinging to wrong view. The second one is kamupadanam, which is karma. which is obviously sensuality, sensuous objects, which we cling on to all the time. And as Ajahn was saying before, just a moment ago, it's happening all the time when we don't realize it. It's very insidious. So I would say I should have really mentioned that one first, kamupadana, the clinging to sensuous objects or what appears or what smelt, what tastes, what is tasted, what is touched, etc. What is thought about, even we're continually oozing forth, and that's probably and obviously why that karma is one of the asavas, karma asava, and always oozing forth, and sila batu padanam, clinging to behavior that is unhelpful to the path. And we know, and Tanajan has spoken about that quite comprehensively, and it's something that's an easy trap to fall into, as we know. And atawadu padanam, that wasn't so clear to me, that Tanajan has explained to me, and I will listen to it again, but she was saying that ditu padanam, there doesn't have to be ditti to have this idea that I am seeing something, that can be quite subtle or quite gross at times. That's one that's perhaps was unusual to me, and I was confusing it with ditu padanam and atawadu padanam, atawada, so the belief of a self. And it didn't seem to be at that time, before Tanajan explained to me, wasn't so clear. So I hope that's a little bit helpful. But if you have any more questions, please do ask Tanajan, because I know it'll be helpful to everybody.
Yeah, no, you've cleared that up. It was just I didn't catch the Pali so clearly,
right.
But you've cleared that up. So thank you.
Okay.
I think when there are other kinds of ditthi, the wrong idea of self is there, but there can be the atavadupadana, the idea of self, without other wrong views, because it can be more and more subtle until it's eradicated at the stage of sotapanna. So there can be
Is that the same as, like, I am, this is mine, this is myself? Is that
that is
also tied in with it? That's atta. Or one is
referring to clinging and conceit and wrong view of self. So there can be clinging without wrong view of self. There can be, when there's conceit, there's no wrong view, but there can be wrong view. But when there's ditthi, there is always wrong view of self involved. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any other ditthi. All kinds of wrong view stem from Sakaya ditthi, from the wrong idea of self.
Okay.
But there can be that subtle Sakaya ditthi without other kinds of wrong view. And the kamupadana, in this case, the clinging to sensuous objects, is wider than when we talk about the kamasava, the asava of kama, because it actually also includes bhavasava. So any kind of clinging without wrong view. And the sila batu padana, sorry?
Bhavasava is clinging to
existing, clinging to birth, clinging to being now, not to sensuous objects. So as I understand, it's all included here.
Okay.
And the sila batu padana can be right now, when there's the idea of doing something, focusing on an object, trying to catch the reality, even right now, anytime.
Or maybe even trying to catch the meaning of the word.
Can be, depends.
Okay. Yeah.
Panya
Thank
can
you.
know.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And on your point about akasa earlier and the subtlety, so the akasa that separates the kalapas is conditioned by the same cause, the chitta, the karma, the utu or the ahara, that conditions the kalapas, the groups it separates, but it's an asabhava dharma. It doesn't have a characteristic that appears or can be known, except to the Buddha and those who are very wise. But it's conditioned. It's a rupa that is conditioned in the same way as the groups it separates.
Well, that started a whole lot more stuff going on in here. Like you said, akasa is conditioned by those four things: kama, citta, utu, ahara.
Because it's a rupa, so it has to be conditioned by one of them, and it's conditioned by the one that conditions the kalapas it's separating.
And when I
So
hear,
there's different, one moment, Sundara. So there's different groups of kalapas separated by this particular akasa. And so there's another group that's separate. That's, do you know what I'm trying to say? You know, you've got one group of kalapas, and the akasa that's separating that is it's the same as the groups that they're that it's separating. So another group. I'm not quite sure what I'm wanting to know here, but I just have this vision of different groups of kalapas floating around out there.
Countless groups of kalapas, each group separated by akasa, right? And
Okay,
it's also conditioned in the same way. Yes.
Okay.
So it just shows the subtlety and how little is really understood.
I guess what I was going to say before there was that it just teaches us, Azita, that conditionality of everything, you know, and that's always what I find helpful. You know, there's no controlling principle there. It's just different conditions arising at different moments, and it can be helpful to that extent. The details can be really helpful. Sometimes we may, and I stress may, overemphasize those sometimes, but we're very fortunate to have Tanajan to help clarify these matters for us. Another word for akasa sometimes is called paricheda rupa. So it's that rupa that divides or that cuts off or that places a limit on, if you like. Cheda. They were always those eight. They always arise together, as we know, the Mahabhutas plus one no Gando, Raso, and Oja. They're always arising together. They're the minimum. That's why they're called the Sudattika, the pure. Su means pure in the sense. The pure Attika, the pure eight, that are always arising together. Tanajan, perhaps what's not so clear to me sometimes, one no is visual object, as we know. Gando is that which has odor. Raso is that which has taste. Oja, so we can say that because rasa is in there, that's not so clear to me, this aspect of oja. Can you talk a little bit about oja, Tanajan Cup?
Sorry, I just isn't that. Please say again.
Yes, Tanajan. We've been talking about the Sudattikas, the eight pure or the eight rupas that arise together at any particular moment. And we of course have the Mahabhutas, the four Mahabhutas, and we have one no, which is visual object, another name for visual object, or that which is seen. Gandho, which is that which has odor. Raso, that which has taste or flavor. And then we have oja. oja, when it's translated as nutritive essence in English. But that word oja, or the concept of oja, let alone the reality, but oja is not clear to me, Tanajan. Can you perhaps elaborate a little bit on oja?
Can anything be eaten? Otherwise, they cannot. Any living being cannot live without food.
That's true, Tanajan. But what I guess my answer, perhaps rather naive one, would be that, you know, all food has taste at some level or other. So what's different between rasa and oja?
Rasa can be known by the moment of tasting, right?
Sure, cup.
And at
So
moment of tasting, when the taste appears as the object, can there be the understanding of oja?
I'm not sure about that, but I imagine from your rhetorical question that it can be known, but that would be, I imagine, a high level of wisdom.
Attend to the characteristic of the object which appears, to understand it as it cannot be other reality. For example, taste, many different tastes, but only that which is there to be the object can be known as it is a reality. And at moment of tasting, no idea that it is a reality at all. But it's not sight and it's not sound. It's known when it's touched. It is moment of tasting, right? And at that very moment, and any moment, like we talk about the 8 primary rupas, and then the other, the 8 out of 4, for primary rupas and for derived rupa. What are the derived and what are the Mahabhuta?
Well, the Mahabhutas are Pathavi, Tejo, Apo, and Vayo. Earth, and the other ones, Vanno, Gandho, Raso, and Woja.
See, it's there and can be the object of experiencing.
Yes, potentially, Tanajan, but I do find oja rather obscure. But it's talking about it like you have this morning has helped me to get a somewhat better grasp on what is being spoken about when we refer to the concept of oja.
Can oja be seen?
No, Tanajan.
Heard?
No, Tanajan.
Felt? Tasted?
Well, I somehow feel that it can be tasted, but that's probably that seems like a wrong understanding the more I consider it.
Just like the moment of seeing that which is visible only, but what are there? Oja is there together with the 4 primary rupas, always there.
Okay, that's helpful, Tanajan.
Because it's very, very truthful, because it's now daily life. The true, hardness is the oja with it. Can it be eaten?
Achan, I sometimes think of this oja, is it? I think when I hear it, I think of termites, the little creatures that eat anything. And so I can kind of understand. I know that's Panyati talking about termites, but it's whenever I hear the ahara in the Galapa, I think of termites eating whatever they eat. They certainly eat things that we can't eat.
It's there with Mahabhuta Rupa, no matter in what plane of existence.
That's it, Azita. The termites or the ants, it's nutriment for them. Yeah. So whatever is in the wood or the plastic, or it's nutriment for.
That's right. Yes, that's what I think of with my rather vivid imagination. Thank you, Achan.
Does the nail have ocha?
Yes, Achan, it does.
The corpse, dead body.
Oh,
And
Yes.
that's very tasty for worms and things.
Every single kalapa, every group of rupas.
Sundra, are you trying to say something? We can hear lots of noise coming from.
Yes, if everyone turns their microphone off when they're not talking, it's better.
Yes, I'd like to ask, so in the case of order, for example, there must be ocha as well, but it seems that it's less ocha than in the more solid things.
Wherever that is rupa, there must be ocha. Because there must be the 4 primary rupas and the derived rupa, the 4 2. And ocha is there. That's why you drink.
Yes, but if someone only drinks, for some time it's okay, but after some time that person will die. So can you say that the amount of ocha is not necessarily the same in different group of kalapa?
That is thinking about the quantity of ocha. But what about the nature of it? No matter you eat just a little bit or big bowl and whatever amount, each kalapa must have ocha in it. And it depends of can we eat just the wood when it's not changed to be the food.
And I think those are conventional stories about, oh, too much water or too little water, because we're talking about a tiny kalapa, and the oja in that kalapa is nutriment for, we don't know who or what or when, but we're just talking about the nature of the oja in the kalapa, not about whether we have too much water or eat too much food or something like that.
So that's another question I have. In each kalapa, there's not equal quantities of each rupa in those kalapas. So there can be, for example, more hardness in one kalapa and more heat in another. Is that how it works? Yeah.
Is each kalapa the same combination?
Well, I guess not. That was my question anyway, Achan. Are they the same? No, they're not. I don't know.
Quality, same quality, because hardness, the patwitadu, soft or hard. It does mean it has to be this much of quantity of hardness all the time. But if it's hardness or softness, heat or cold, who can limit by conditions. Otherwise, there cannot be different taste, sugar and salt.
Yes, Achan, of course. I'm amazed at how much I forget. I mean, I've heard this before, but it just goes somewhere. Thank you, Achan.
And just like the salty taste may be more suitable for someone than the sweet taste, which may be more suitable for another. So it's the same with the oja, different ojas, what the oja that is suitable in the woodwork for the ants is not the oja in another group of kalapas that is suitable for someone else. So different tastes, different ojas, different visible objects, different colors, different hardnesses.
And what arises is just only once in samsara, never be the same at all, from moment to moment.
And if they were all the same, there would never be the idea of different kinds of fruits and different dishes and different bodily experiences and so on. So Sanya marks exactly what is experienced, exactly as it is, conditioning the thinking about different ideas, different skins, different flavors, different tastes, different foods, on and on.
And Ajahn comment on arising, disappearing, and never to be experienced again, never again in samsara. That's a very, very powerful comment.
And this is the only way to have confidence of what is there. And it can let go the idea of self or something permanent, less clinging to that object until it appears well or better than just when it appears as something. For example, hardness. When we think of what is it, it's not as clear as it's just hard. No idea of what is there as juice or food. All kilesa, ignorance, and attachment can be object of understanding little by little. And just at the moment when it's there as the object directly, it is the way to know it, to be acquainted with that which is not self, to the way it is, to the characteristic of that which is nothing, as we take before. Otherwise, it's not letting go, ignorance, attachment, and ditthi.
I am beginning to understand what is meant by to begin again, or, to continue listening, because, there are a lot more reminders of when I'm in, everyday life. There'll be just a thought come, this arises and is gone, never to be seen again. But of course then, whatever, something else will take over, and it's just good reminder, isn't it? I'm seeing more and more of the advantages of listening again and again, and listening to these discussions. They're very, very beneficial.
And when there is the understanding of the absolute truth as no one and no thing, the understanding of what is heard about the truth right now can be clearer because of the understanding that it's only just a reality, and only at that moment it's there. Not more than just when it appears in a moment. So at this very moment, if there is the idea of thinking about my taste or thinking about Chivitindriya, what is that which thinks? This is a point to understand what is meant by Nama and Rupa, not just the word, but the moment of thinking. What is it? A reality, experiences, the object as the word, as Chivitindriya at that moment, and Buddha pointed out how many realities are there. There must be the citta and the other cetasikas rising together, and there must be the object at that very moment. And when there is no understanding, ignorance and attachment is there all day. So the most precious moment is the understanding of the truth of what is there. Even if so very little, it develops on and on, little by little, until it understands that what can be known is only that which is now appearing. By conditions, it develops in its own way.
I think that's another really important comment you often make, Ajahn, about what can be known is just that it is appearing now. Otherwise, it's just thinking about it. But I find that also a very beneficial comment. I think I've written it down quite a few times.
But if there's no understanding of the meaning of the word that Buddha taught, there cannot be any condition to understand that very moment at all. That's why hearing, listening to the meaning of the word Nama, see, it's not difficult to just repeat Nama. It's that which experiences. But now, see, the experiencing arises from moment to moment, from moment of birth, on and on and on, up to now and on and on and on, not known as it is. Just think about the Nama, the experiencing. It takes quite a long time and wise considering to know the purpose of listening, what for, to let go, what, that which is there, from life to life, not to arise again, because understand the truth that is useless just to arise and fall away all the time with the wrong understanding, taking it with clinging and ignorance on and on as someone and something that is quite a lie, not true at all. Only Panya can understand the truth of life, of what is there as it is, little by little, to let go, taking it for something so desirable, like seeing, hearing, thinking about this and that all the time. It seems like it's very interesting, but in truth, what is there? Just a moment of experiencing with many, many different characteristics of mind factor, of cetasika. Not anyone at all, by conditions, by the accumulation. Why these people think like this, why the other doesn't think like this at all. By conditions, no one there. It can condition more compassion to the person who does not understand the truth. And what we can do or to act, to react is more wholesome because of understanding that what is unwholesome is not there, but it's now at this moment. It does not belong to anyone, but it's conditioned by ignorance. And it can be more because whatever is so great, so big, has to begin from the very tiny, very little more of that. So one moment, more and more, it can condition moment of understanding or more moment of ignorance and more moment of attachment. That's why by understanding the truth, it conditions parami, the patience and virya and confidence and letting go little by little. And this is the path of right understanding. Without right understanding of what is there now, it's useless, no matter what we hear about, whether it's non-self, whether it's this, and whether it's that, but it's here, unknown all the time. That's why beginning to understand more and more about what is heard about is now, depending on what appears as it is. It can be sound, it can be hardness, it can be smell, it can be remembering, it can be feeling, or whatever. All are different realities by condition. To learn more about the truth can condition more letting go of ignorance and attachment. For example, we talk about kamasava or kamupatan. Kamupatan is stronger, but without just a moment to moment, how can there be just strong attachment to the sensuous object? That's why even it's known as it does not last at all, it disappears. But the clinging to what is experienced so pleasantly from life to life cannot be let go at all if there's not enough understanding at different levels stronger than just experience the truth that it's not permanent. It's not permanent, but it's very pleasant. So it has to keep on. The most valuable in samsara is understanding what is there instead of ignorance, not understanding the truth of it at all. And the truth is no I. So it depends on condition, not just to wish to have, to do, try to do, to have. Impossible. That is not the understanding, the meaning of Dhamma and Anatta. Only right understanding can understand what's right and what's wrong, what's true and what is not true. And that letting go is only the moment of understanding the truth as not self, as it is little by little.
Yes, as we mentioned earlier, we think a lot about different tastes and about different sounds, different visible objects, and forget that what's experienced now is just sound, it's just visible object, it's just taste, regardless of absolutely no consequence what the taste is or the sound or the visible object, because it's just that reality, only the sound, the visible object, the taste that can be understood, no matter what kind it is.
So could we say that right understanding is the most powerful of all realities?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay, Ajahn, could we say that Panya is the most powerful of all realities?
That's what Buddha said. The most precious reality, the conditioned reality, is right understanding. Comparing to ignorance, is it true?
Yeah. Yes, Ajahn, it's very true. Ignorance knows nothing, and Panya is the complete opposite.
Among all conditioned realities, right understanding is the best. no matter in what situation.
Yes, Ajahn, it's the ultimate medicine, I would think.
So take it, not just look at it.
Thank you, Ajahn. Okay, I will.
The conditions, and that is conditioned to take it.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
One small detail that came up earlier, Ajahn, Zita was mentioning Bhavasava and clinging to, well, she mentioned clinging to birth. And I mentioned, I thought it was to just being or existing, but it reminded me of a quote she gave about relating to the first mind or process in life when there is just clinging to bhava. And the translator had mentioned that this means clinging to birth, but I thought also it was just clinging to being, clinging to existing. Do you have any comment on this?
Clinging to whatever is there.
Whatever is there, any to life there, not just to the, because the translator had said that it was meant that it was referring to the Patisandhi Chitta, and I didn't think this was right because it's not what is there right at that moment. But I think that one reason people think that it refers just to the Patisandhi Chitta is because we have that phrase in the suttas about Puna Bhava as a referring to Patisandhi, and then in Paticca Samuppada, when it mentions bhava, it refers to either karma or becoming, to new life. So I think there's a little bit of confusion about the meaning of bhava, like in that first process of life, or in when it's referring to the Puna Bhava in the suttas, or to Paticca Samuppada in context of becoming.
Can there be bhava without birth?
There has to be birth, but if there's bhavasava now clinging to just being or existing, then it's to just life or existing at this moment.
And birth is moment of arising, right?
Right. At any moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why the understanding of the truth more and more, little by little, sharper and sharper, can understand the truth of what he said in different manners or different aspects.
Well, there's birth at this moment, but it's not the Patisandhi, so they can be clinging to life or the birth of arising now, but it's not Patisandhi. So when it's the object of the first process in life to bhava, then of course, if there hadn't been the Patisandhi, there couldn't be the clinging to being or existing. But in that context, it's just to life itself at that moment, or the arising or birth of life at that moment, rather than to Patisandhi as I understand it. Is that how you read it?
But when there is the understanding of what's meant by arising or birth, no conflict at all.
Right, right.
And does Intl.Dhamma have clinging or bhava?
There must be bhava unless it's an arahat.
As anussya only.
Only as
because
anussya.
there's no arising of any citta and cetasika.
Right. So the tendency is not yet eradicated, but just no conditions for it to arise.
And the anusia of the citta before the birth of Asanyasatta too.
Tanajan, what was that word? Asanyatadatu. Can you, I'm not quite sure if I understand that. What was that word you used, Tanajan?
There's no nama arising at all. And the rupa is conditioned by the kama, the Asanyasatta level of jhana.
Oh, I see. Okay, yes, I understand now. Thank you, Tanajan. I understand now. Thank you.
Referring to the life when only rupas arise, no namas, but the last nama, the last chuti of the life before conditions the next patisandhi in the next lifetime after that one. But all the anusias that haven't been eradicated are still there.
Does a cat have anusia?
Definitely.
And does it have asava?
Definitely.
Does it have kilesa?
Definitely.
Exactly the same.
Yep.
By conditions. So realities cannot be anything or anyone, cannot be dog or cat. Seeing is seeing, no matter when and where, in what plane. That's why we talk about the absolute reality. So what is meant by absolute reality? No one there at all. Only the way reality is conditioned to be arising and falling away, never to return.
So can we say when we're talking about bhavasava, it's the clinging to the to life, to the arising of any reality at that moment, to any chitta, to any moment of existence at that moment.
Thinking about what is explained as 3 moments after seeing it's there.
Right. Well, in that case, the object's visible object still. Just the subtle clinging to anything that appears.
The truth is that there are so many degrees of everything. Attachment, aversion, and so on. Right understanding. Thinking, considering, realizing. No one. Is that what now? Well, no one say anything.
For sure, completely unknown.
I think it's really helpful when we hear that the creatures around us, the birds and the animals and the insects, all have nama and rupa, just the same as us. And it for me, it makes for more compassion for these creatures. The other day I was bitten by an insect, a wasp, and they really hurt. But it bit me because I was cutting down some branches off a tree and that its house was there. And it really hurt, but I apologized to this wasp because I didn't know his house was there, and I was removing his house. So there's a whole different way of thinking about the creatures when you know that they are just like us. They do have feelings. They do have Lopa and Dosa, I imagine. So I appreciate also this part of the teachings, just to show that, that we can have compassion for everyone, everything.
Even the killer, right?
Yes, Ajahn, even the killer.
This is right understanding before it developed to the degree of understanding what's meant by living alone.
Perhaps even more so, Azita, with the killer, because, their ignorance is so, at that moment anyway, of the killing, is so strong. There is going to be, or potentially, conditions for some pretty nasty consequences for that deed in this life, of course, and in the other life. So that's a very good reminder, Tanajan. And I know that for myself, it's helpful to consider the Dhamma in the way that you've just described. And look, I will, Jan, just say again, look, I know you're getting up, you get up every day for us, or you have to do things I know you have to do. But I really appreciate you being here and sharing your profound wisdom with us all. It's truly appreciated.
The best thing is understanding reality as it is. No matter what kind of thinking, no what kind of doing, speaking, all by condition. And there can be more understanding of what's right and what's wrong, what's wholesome and what isn't wholesome. And it works its way, seeing the danger of unwholesomeness. So it conditioned moment of not doing that, restrain from that by understanding. Only cause and result. And Panya can understand what is there at that very moment, no matter what it is.
John, I have written here, I have many books of written notes over the years, but one, I think it's from a few years ago in Thailand, and you said, you can think about tomorrow, but will it happen? It doesn't depend on your thoughts, but what happens depends on conditions. And my tendency is to worry about things that may or may not happen. So I'd like you to speak a little bit on that, please, if you would.
The only way to understand that clearer is understand what is there now. See, no one makes it arise. It's there already, but it's not known as it's conditioned to be just that, only that. So the best moment is to understand what is there as what we have heard about it quite a long time and still hearing again and again about what is there. If there's no answer yet, consider more, hearing more, reading more, because Buddha taught about reality in all aspects, no matter by way of dhatu, by way of ayatana, by way of Ariya Satya, by way of Paticca. So what is there now? It's time, which is conditioned after hearing a lot about the truth to attend to that object, because not thinking about it before, but they're conditioned just at that very moment to, we don't use the word thinking, but to experience it with some understanding that what is there can be known as it is. And it takes quite a long time too to understand the precious of even understanding that what is there now is that which can be directly known as it is. As it is means as no one and no thing, only the characteristic which is there as the object of the experiencing, the nama and the rupa all day. Different moment, different characteristics. And that is the moment after hearing a lot about what can be known is now. Because moment of touching is not moment of thinking about hardness, but hardness is there to be known as it's hard. That is hard. No one, no thing. Seeing is that which sees now. No body, no one. By conditions, it has arisen already. Can anyone make it arise? Because it's there already. And in truth, it's gone instantly, unknown. But it can be directly letting go, attachment to what is there as something, or attached to that which follows, the idea of it, the shape and form, and so on. That's why right understanding develops little by little to understand what is there, as it's the object which can be understood directly, little by little, as no one and no thing. And this is higher than the intellectual understanding, because without the intellectual understanding, how can there be even thinking about that which appears, as it is the only reality which can be realized as it arises and falls away. The truth is that, but it's not yet developed to the degree that it can understand the truth, because there is no understanding the truth as no thing yet. That's why there must be the confidence of the characteristic which is there as it is. Hardness cannot be the reality which experiences it. So what is known, little by little, to condition moment of understanding it when it's there. That's why from hearing and hearing, considering and considering about the truth, there can be the understanding from the hearing, considering at what level it would be. As Sariputta, listening to what is there, realizing, becoming Sotapanna, and no doubt about what is heard. Seeing is seeing now. Without the moment of developing the understanding of seeing, can there be moment of letting go of the idea of self?
I really appreciated Tanajan when you said just a moment ago about having the confidence and the characteristic as it appears or as it is. I found that very helpful, Tanajan.
And this is what it is conditioned for understanding directly of what is there, which hasn't been directly understood before. Little by little, so little to understand that it's not I at all. Otherwise, I try to do this or do that, to think about this and that. But even that, when Panya is strong enough, it knows no matter what kind of thinking, what kind of feeling, what kind of strong attachment, or very weak dosa and so on, can be known as it is. Everything has to be known. Otherwise, what is there left cannot let go the idea of self in daily life, natural life. Right now.
Tanajan, when you said what is there left cannot be let go, I didn't quite follow that.
Let go, ignorance.
Okay, yes. Cup.
The one who sees me, the one who knows me, the one who sees Dhamma sees me. The word of the Buddha.
Yes, so mampasati, so dhammampasati. Yeah, who sees me, who sees the Dhamma.
And just back to the point about the different rupas we were discussing earlier with reference to Tam's question about the skin and so on, and the different groups conditioned by kama, citta, uta or hara. And the other day, just in passing, you made reference to the different vasana, the different habits, like when waving the hand or gesticulating, according to one's different vasana, the way of smiling, the way of wiping one's eyes and so on. And as we know, only the Buddha has no more vasana. When we're talking about the different vasana, like we know the kaya vinyati or the vaci vinyati must be conditioned by citta, but are we talking about different groups of rupas conditioned by these different causes? What exactly are we referring to?
Can akusala citta be the same level from moment to moment?
Different levels.
And
So,
what about the rupa conditioned by citta?
Conditioned accordingly, according to the particular citta, the degree of movement. Sorry?
Condition such shape and form.
Right.
Of sound, see, even sound.
But we know that even the arahats who have no more kilesa still have vasana, even though no more akusala cittas conditioning the rupas, but still the sound of the voice or the mannerisms from past habits, from past the habits accumulated from akusala in the past still has its effect in terms of those rupas that are conditioned. Like the monk who jumped over puddles, or the one who always sounded like he was shouting or something like this, the effect of akusala in the past, even though no more akusala, but still the vasana, that habit is there.
Sarah, I'm not too sure, I'm sorry, if I understood your question in relationship to wasana. Can you help me with that again, please?
We were just talking about earlier about the different groups of rupas conditioned in different ways by Chitakama and so on, and how, like now, the habits are conditioned by different causes. So if there's a little lobha, it may not condition the particular habits or just gesticulations, but if the lobha is a little stronger, it may condition a little bit more of that habit. And only the Buddha has no vasana conditioned by any akusala. So even the arahats, even though the akusala is eradicated, still those habits are there that have been accumulated on and on. So I was just asking whether the vasana just refers to the different groups of rupas that are habitual.
But you see that we have to talk a little more about what is vasana.
Right.
Because while arahata is still alive, there must be vipaka, conditioned by karma to see, and no kilesa. So whatever he thinks cannot be conditioned by akusala anymore. But the manners, the way of speech and manners of the body has been accumulated by nature. The way one sits, the way one talk. See, if we look, we have different ways of sitting, even right now, by nature. Even while one going to sleep, the comfortable posture is there by condition too. Nothing to do with what condition for the kalapa of rupa right then, because it's just the way it has been accumulated by nature of manners and speech through body and speech, only that. That's why while one looking at someone or looking, suppose in the old days, the way Buddha sits or speech, it is so no one can blame anything at all, perfect. But the other monk, someone might not know who he was, arahata or not arahata, but the way of speaking is exactly the same as usual by conditions. We don't talk about the rupa, the number of rupa and what condition it, because it has to be by dhamma or citta or tu or ahara. But what is there as the manners of sitting and speaking? He cannot get rid of all kinds of unpleasant ways of manners, but only Buddha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right, Tanajan, because there's as we know, as you were saying, Tanajan, the Buddha is absolutely perfect in his manner, bodily, everything. But there was the case of that arahata who had been a Brahman for many thousands of lives, and he still, even though he became arahata, he still spoke rudely, what seemed to be rudely to people, in a disparaging or condescending manner. And the other monks were offended by it, but the Buddha said that there was no fault because of his habits in the past being passed on to the present, even though he was arahata.
That's why there is difference between the manners or the way of speech and this or action. That's why we have the word very, very charming or very, very nice and so on by nature. Even in the same family, we have different ways of speech or the way of sitting, walking, so on. Some have the habit of walking very quickly, see. But when one realizes, he gets slower, sometimes like that. But the nature, when it's not known, it's just the accumulation of the way it has been accumulated. As vasana, besides the kilesa.
Yes, as we know, the rupas themselves are not accumulated, but the tendencies, the chittas, that condition, the verbal and bodily intimation, and the different kinds of movements, the chittas themselves are accumulated to condition different ways. And so even when there are no more tendencies to akusala, still those habits that have been conditioned by those chittas still have their effect.
And when one looks at different moments of sitting, walking, so on, we can understand what's meant by vasana. Someone speaks very slowly, someone walks very slowly, someone just walks very fast, unknowingly, no intention, by conditions, by habits. So can we say that it's the habitual manners through speech and deeds?
Well, the habit has to be through speech and deeds. The actual habit has to be the habit of the chittas and cetasikas, because they are the habitual tendencies, but the way they manifest is through speech and deeds. And the effect can be long anytime, because when we think about someone's way of sitting, well, actually, of course, in truth, there's no one and there's no sitting. There are just the different groups of rupas conditioned by citta and other causes, but the habit that leads to the bodily posture or the speech is conditioned by the citta at those moments, but also temperature and other factors.
Usually we say that it is kusala or akusala that accumulate, but now it seems that the way the citta condition speech and actions, manners also accumulate, right? Independently from kusala and akusala.
The habit of the citta has to be kusala or akusala, because when it's the habit of the citta which accumulates, it's not the vipaka citta, it has to be the kusala or akusala.
So it's with akusala or kusala until the arhata magga, and
Right.
then what is left is just the way that the citta condition those rupas.
Right. By habit.
Very, very subtle.
It's a very subtle point.
So, for example, someone may speak with a lisp when they pronounce the letters in a certain way. So, as I understand it, that is something that is just a habit conditioned. When they are born in this lifetime, when they speak with a lisp, then it's not necessarily kusala or akusala. That is having effect at that time when they are speaking. but the way of pronouncing has been accumulated at some time in the past, and that the habit of speaking in that way manifests in the present lifetime.
That's a very good example.
I wonder about that. I wonder about that though, because often lisp has a physiological basis for it in this life. And there may be some truth to that. It doesn't seem to ring so true to me because, as I said, lisp can be, is often because of a physiological disability, to do with the structure of the mouth or the lips or something like that, or teeth. So it may be so, but it doesn't seem to be. I've seen it translated as perfuming, or like it's a flavoring. It inhabits, and it's sometimes translated as inhabiting, rather than habit as inhabiting. It's like it's a part of the psyche that accumulates.
Can we say that it's the habitual manners of speech and deeds?
Yeah, that passes on. That feels good to me. It feels okay to me. Tanajan ultimately probably is not so important, but I know there's in Thai there's the word wasana, and I asked a woman whose name was Wasana or something like that, and she said it relates to a smell or an odor or something, a pleasant odor, a pleasant smell. So of course we could say in the case of the Samma Sambuddha, his wasana is always so pleasing, and I guess the name in Thai means something like that, somebody who is pleasing. So perhaps the example was not, the name there is not such a good so helpful to us to understand what wasana means, but I have the understanding that it's just, as you were saying, people from life to life, we all accumulate habits when we're walking, when we're eating, when we are, as you said, with posture, people are inclined to sit in different ways, and so that tends to to accumulate, if we can use that word there.
The Sammasambuddha has no pleasing vasana, no vasana at all.
Vasana has two meanings too: pleasant, unpleasant manners, beautiful or not beautiful manners. So when we talk about only Buddha can eradicate the unpleasant manners, or I don't know what word is used. Like the story of Bhikkhu Mahakachana and Vasakara Brahma, see?
I was just trying to remember that, Tanajan. Vasakara, it's vaguely familiar. Can you help me with that again?
He saw Mahakachana came down from the hill, and then he said it's just like monkey and so on.
Oh, that's right. Yes, of course. Yes, that's right. And the Buddha said to Vasakara that he should apologize, otherwise he could be reborn as a monkey. And Vasakara chose not to reply, chose not to apologize, and he instead he went ahead and planted all mango trees and what have you in a particular garden, and he was born as a monkey. So that's another good example of Mahakachayana, who was he had a gait or had a walk similar to a monkey, and he, as being an arahata though, he was he had eradicated all defilements, but still Vasakara Brahman mocked him and made poorly of him because of his gait, his walk.
Perhaps we should.
Vasana, is it just a quick question. Is it what people actually say? Like, I have an acquaintance who often when I see her, she has not a good way of speaking about other people. So is that the wasana? Is it what is being said, or is it the way it's being said?
I wouldn't understand it to be, that sounds a lot of a kusala to me, but no doubt the mixed amongst all it, there would be some wasana, but sometimes it's hard to tease them apart. I think what Tanajan said before about, being pleasing, pleasing wasana. Yeah, that's right. And the way we walk or sit or speak, even some people are very skillful. Yes, that can be kusala, but also there's it seems to me to be some wasana in the equation as well. So it's not easy to tease them apart, it would seem. But when we look, and I remember hearing that woman's name, Wasana, her name was Wasana in Thailand, and she explained to me, she was being very slightly coy for obvious reasons, but she was saying it meant something like a perfume, something pleasant. So, as Ajahn said, the Buddha's behavior was very pleasing, superbly pleasing to see. His movements, everything would have been, amazing, but perhaps not recognized by everybody, but with the wise person, they could see it. It's like, and even I think in the Arahatta, when Sariputta saw Asaji, he saw he had something. Now, it was to do with his habits, no doubt, to some extent, but obviously to do with his eradication of a kusala. And I think but there are some bhikkhus, no doubt, as we know, who are arahatta, but still have rather what we have strange or unpleasant behavior. So it would be different from person to person.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn. We can continue the topic next time.